Yeah.
G'day everybody, Wade Northhausen here for Billboard Battalion. We're coming to you today live from battalion headquarters downtown Echuca, north central Victoria, Australia. Today we're looking at some things that have unfolded just recently. We're looking at where the agricultural sector is, and we wanted to start by talking at some of the things that we've seen in the last couple of weeks in Victoria here. So today is Sunday, the 25th of May, 2025, and only a few days ago there were massive protests in Melbourne, which is the capital city of Victoria for people from overseas. And what's happening here is all of a sudden we're starting to see many farmers and many Country Fire Authority volunteers really arcing up on something that's happened, an action that the Jacinta Allen Labor government here in Victoria have done. But I just preface this by saying that things may not be what it seems to be. So the Allen government has just legislated in the last few days a whole new, brand new, great big tax that they're going to bring in. It's called the Emergency Services and Volunteers Levy Fund. So what that's about is this in landowners' rates will replace what they call the old fire services tax. And the problem that we're starting to see is that for many farmers, this part in their rates will go up 189%. Now, this is a massive jump. And to some farmers, this represents an annual increase every year of over $100,000. So this is really, really quite unsustainable. And it's really got a lot of farmers now who are jumping up and down and going crook. And one of the reasons why in the recent protests we saw so many Country Fire Authority volunteers and fire trucks involved in this is because the insult to injury is that many of the people who are going to have to pay, many of the farmers and landholders and business owners in areas who are going to have to pay this extra tax are the actual volunteer firefighters who turn out to fight the fires. So you can certainly understand why this has been such a bone of contention. And, there's been 3 rallies that we've attended, the Billboard Battalion's attended the last couple of weeks. One was in Bendigo at Jacinta Allen's office, who's the Victorian Premier, where we saw for the first time ever in history, fire trucks come in and volunteer firefighters leave the trucks, throw the keys at the door of the Premier's office because this gutless parasite Jacinta Allen wasn't there, and leave the trucks there. Then we saw at the same time rallies happening in Melbourne. We went down to another one after that, the following Tuesday, and then also after they passed this legislation, then Billboard Battalion attended another big rally, which was in Melbourne just last Tuesday. So, and I must say that as a veteran Country Fire Authority volunteer firefighter myself, I was very, very proud to be there with so many other CFA volunteer firefighters and their support crews and family and friends and other community members. So this is a big part of Australia fighting back. So I wanted to get to some of the commentary that's been happening. And, the whole purpose of this video, and for anybody who knows Billboard Battalion and what Farmer Wade's been doing over many, many decades. Billboard Battalion, I formed this in 2022. But before that, I've been involved in agri-politics for 40-odd years, as were my family. So the point of this video is to say, okay, we're starting to see the agricultural sector wake just a little bit. And I wanted to explain over my 40 years of experience in ag politics what is actually happening, what this is about, and where this is going. So I'll focus on this particular issue of this great big new tax in Victoria that the Allen government's brought in, that in fact will attack every landholder, whether you're a farmer, whether you're a homeowner, whether you own a business with some land, and that will then run on to every other Victorian, because as massive costs increase, that affects everyone. And this is only one of the taxes that they're bringing in. They're bringing in taxes around metropolitan areas where we see farmland be rezoned, and then things are being made impossible for people. They've got to sell. They've got to get out. And here's a clue. That's what this is about. It's about getting rid of farmers. It is about getting rid of private ownership of land completely. And I know that's going to be a little bit hard for some people to swallow. So we'll go through some things here at the baseline level, because there's going to be a lot of people now taking interest in what's happening, and they've got no idea of the big picture of global politics. They've got no idea of why their farm or their land is gradually being made so they can't be there, so they can't pay the expenses, why they're unviable. This is not an accident. This is something that's been unfolding for many, many years. And I, for one, have been on this case, pushing this as hard as I can for many years. So what's happening now, to me, is not a surprise. It's a bit late in coming, in fact, because I know that our politicians are targeting farmers just as one group. They are specifically targeting farmers. So can I just say that, we need to realign a lot of the commentary that's been happening about this issue. And we see many of the people who are in the leadership roles and organisational roles of this stuff are saying this is about Jacinta Allen's mismanagement, about the Labor Party who cannot run a budget. The Labor Party under Daniel Andrews here has got Victoria into such debt, that they're trying to do this to claw back debt. Well, that's actually not true. It's all very plausible. And if you're coming at this from the position of the coalition, that's great. Sounds terrific. Because this is what the problem is that we have coalition politicians who are getting involved with the people who are running this, with the people who are actually in the trouble, and trying to use those people for their own political purposes. And this is all a part of the problem. This is a part of the illusion. This is a part of the reason why we are in such terrible, terrible trouble as we are. So the first thing that I would say is that we have a lot of farmers who will be watching this and who will be talking about things, who focus solely on what they do on their property. A lot of farmers who, their conversations are about seasons, weather, chemicals, fuel, tractors, air seeders, headers, machinery, sheep, cattle, fertilizers, how much they're getting for crop, how much this is worth and that's worth, which is understandable. You would expect that to be the case. But the most important part that farmers do not look at, and the reason why we are now in this predicament with this great big new tax, this war on farmers, is what I call a war on farmers, our government attacking farmers, is because the government have had no pushback from the agricultural sector. They've had no pushback from farmers. And that is not by accident. That is happening because of specific things that are made to make that happen. People are led down a certain path. So therefore, the politicians are free to do whatever they want and get away with it. So today, we're going to look at some things here that many people might look at and go, oh, I don't think so. No, I don't believe that. Well, I guarantee 100 million% that it's exactly as it is. That what I'm saying, whether people want to believe it or not, and we'll go through this and we'll look at some of the evidence to say this is the situation and this is why we are in the trouble that we're in. First of all, I want to talk about what I call the big picture. And that is that all over Australia in ag, and I mean, I've said this plenty of times before, but we'll have a whole lot of new people who haven't heard any of this. So we'll do it from the ground up. I talk about the big picture. Now, all across Australia, we've got issues that are happening in farming areas that seem to be regional. They seem to be specific to an area or a group. But these things are not isolated. They are all connected. They are all part of a specific overall strategy. And what we are seeing is that we're losing farmers at an enormous rate of knots. Now, the politicians, have they come up with an answer as to what is happening? No, mate. No, they won't. Because, in fact, they are the ones who are causing the problems. Are we seeing from many of our farm leadership groups about this? No, not a word, nothing. So if we look across Australia, we've got issues that have been unfolding for, as I said, 40 years. We've had issues where banks have taken on farmers and sent them broke illegally. We've got issues where our water has been stripped off us, where the use of water has become virtually impossible in many, many areas. We've seen the complete destruction of irrigation systems and of supply of water to farmers, where they've replaced systems, they've made it so it's unworkable. You can't get it when you need it. And this is all a part of a system to systematically destroy our farmers. We've seen over in Western Australia just recently the destruction of the live sheep export industry out of Western Australia heading over to the Arab Emirates. Now, that once again is not an accident. And what we'll see as part of their strategy to confuse people, their strategy to lie to people, and to make it so as you can't get a bead on the target as to what's happening. The governments, and that runs down to many of the farmer groups and so on now, they're saying this is all about the animal liberationists, those bloody animal liberationists. Oh, they're the problem. Rah, rah, rah. Actually, no, they're not. The animal liberationists are what we would classify as useful idiots. So therefore, they are working towards the goals that the government want. And that is to destroy the agricultural sector. So anything that we see the animal liberationists being a part of, the government want them to be a part of it. And anything that we see the environmentalists, where they are trying to make things so hard for farmers and for everybody across the country, that is because the government wants them to be doing this. They want them to be putting pressure on. And the government want to be able to use them as the excuse. Once again, very, very clever, very misleading, very, very sneaky, underhanded and dishonest. Because at the world politics level that we talk about, which is what this is all about, the Jacinta Allen tax in Victoria. This is not coming from Jacinta Allen. This is coming from world level politics. Make no mistake. So the people that we're talking about are names that are not really bandied around farmer areas and farmer circles. So as I said, the general conversation at meetings and between farmers is, livestock prices, weather, whether or not you're talking about fuel prices, chemical, all that sort of stuff. This is generally what the conversation is. They'll talk about the likes of the VFF or the state bodies. They'll talk about the National Farmers Federation, though not many people do, because the National Farmers Federation are a joke. They're part of the problem. A massive part of the problem why we're seeing farmers being destroyed is due to the National Farmers Federation, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But here I'm going to introduce for people who are new, and to reinforce for people who are not new to what we're talking about, what the real problem is, excuse me, and who we should be talking about. And I've got a really sophisticated chart behind me that I'm going to have a look at in a second, and how these things are involved. And we're going to look at two elements that farmers, on one hand, look at and they think about, and they think, yes, this is relevant to farmers. Yes, it is, but it's actually not. And we'll explain that. And the other thing that we're going to talk about, which is critical, and things have happened internationally in the last few days, where what I'm going to talk about that people would never associate with farming. We're going to explain how it's everything to do with farming. So we need people to have a bit of an open mind, put aside thoughts or prejudices or sides or whatever, just for a second, and just look at the information. And as I said, the most important thing is to have an open mind, because what we're talking about here today, for many people, is very, very challenging. This is talking about many people doing a complete 180-degree turn. And I did say this to some people just recently, people in groups like Farmers for Climate Action. And I said to some of these people, and have done for the last couple of years, that Farmers for Climate Action need to do a complete 180-degree turn as to what they're about. And hopefully today we can bring some of that into focus, because, excuse me, having a terrible time here. If we get to the end and we look at, okay, what is the course of action we need to take? The first and most important thing about fighting any war, politically or otherwise, fighting for your survival, is to understand what you're fighting in the first place. And that way you can actually fight against it. So for this, many people are going to say, oh, that's all crap, or, I don't believe that. Couldn't possibly be the case. But I guarantee you it absolutely is. Make no mistake. So let's have a bit of a look at what we're talking about here. I want to look at our screen here now. Hopefully people can see this okay. She's a bit rough and ready, but it'll get the job done. These are the most important names in agriculture, in Australian politics, in your safety, and in your business, your agricultural farming business. What we're going to talk about here is the most important single element in your survival and your viability. And the new words that we need to look at. Up here, we've got the World Economic Forum. Now, to many people, they don't even know what that is. I speak to a hell of a lot of farmers who have not got the foggiest idea in the world of what the World Economic Forum is. They've never, ever heard of it. And they don't know what you're even talking about. There's a big problem. And that is because our politicians and our farm leaders, like the National Farmers Federation, lie to you. They con you. This is one of the most important things in your farming business. And like I continually say, of all the elements that we talk about, the most important thing in your farming business is politics. Because as we've seen here in Victoria just in the last week, a politician can, with a stroke of a pen, make you unviable, can send you broke, can destroy your entire business, and in some cases, what people have been living on their land for 5 generations. A politician with the stroke of a pen can end your entire business and your career, your life, your marriage, your family, everything. So this is where this is coming from. The World Economic Forum, we've got here the United Nations. And people would more likely have heard of the United Nations than the WEF, the World Economic Forum. So we've got the WEF, the UN, and now, and here's the critical crunch factor, the World Health Organization. Now, we might have people say, what does the World Health Organization have to do with my farming? In fact, many farmers have never even heard of the World Health Organization. Well, here's where it gets really nasty. And this is where your politicians have been lying to you. And this is where your farm leadership group, like the National Farmers Federation, are lying scumbags. And this is where they have been a part in setting you up to fail. The National Farmers Federation and your 4 major political parties. They've lied to you and they've set you up to crash and burn. And that is why we're in the problems we've got right now. And the thing with Jacinta Allen is only a smidgen of the issue. There's 2 things here that are critically important to your farms. This is the sort of stuff you're not going to see on the ABC. You're not going to hear it from your politicians. Climate change. Climate change is a fraud. It is actually a weapon. Climate change was designed to be used to shut down agriculture, to shut down industry, and to shut down countries, people, their economy, their society, everything. Food production, the generation of electricity, energy usage. That was what climate change was invented for. It is a farce. It is a weapon to be used against you. And we'll see how this involves farming here very soon. The other thing that is so critical here to farming is this word here, pandemic. And a lot of people might be looking at that going, what? How is pandemic connected to farming? And as I said a bit earlier, something's happened in the last week that brings this into the most important thing to do with farming. And I will fill in a bit of a gap here. We'll write something down here. This here, pandemic treaty. And you might say, what's that got to do with ag? Well, that's got to do with the fact that Australia, these scum, low-life politicians in the Australian government, and that is both Labor and the Greens and the Liberals and the Nationals. They are all a part of this problem. Just in the last week, Australia, and at the minute it was the Labor Party. But it doesn't matter if it was the coalition in power, which the coalition were not, they were not instructed to be in power. And I know that's a bit hard to swallow too, but I guarantee you what I'm saying is correct. The pandemic treaty that was just signed this week gives this lot here, the World Health Organization, this mob here, this gives them total and absolute control over this. Your farming. You are no longer in control of your agricultural setup. This group here now controls them. And these ones here, our governments, they are the ones who signed that gives this mob total control over this. And how that is going to work. The World Health Organization now are under the control of one man who actually is an international wanted terrorist. This is how bad this is. This man here now gets to use all this here and that to destroy this. And our governments gave them the power. So we might have a look at this mob up the top here for a start. And I'll just do that. Who are the World Economic Forum? The United Nations, we sort of know. This bunch of scumbag lowlifes here, many people never heard of. What is all this about? These people here have decided over many, many, many years that they will make the decisions on the world's politics, on who lives in the world, who gets to stay alive, and for how long. This mob here have put in place a number of things, and I'll write this down. Just a couple of them are Agenda 21 and also Agenda 2030. Now, I just want you to take that in for a second. What these two things here are about, and that's only a part of a suite of different things that they're doing. Agenda 21 means that by the year 2030, this group here will have absolute ownership and control of everything that happens on the globe. Your farming, businesses, the ownership of everything. The total and an ability to shut down you, your life. That is what this stuff is about. And where we can do something about here in Australia, our governments now work for them. They do not work for us. So what does all this mean? It means that we're in a massive amount of trouble. It means that for a long time now, we have not worked together. It means that for a long time now, we have been lied to. It means that these people now have an agenda to destroy your farms, to take your ownership of your farms off you. And I can say that, for a long, long time, I've been trying over many, many issues to get people to understand this. And it's a tough gig because we've got quite a lot of people who do not want to believe this sort of stuff. And our enemies, the World Economic Forum, those people at the top there, they have agendas and they are in very influential positions. And we've got people, the likes of your politicians, the likes of the leadership of the National Farmers Federation, who they don't want to be telling you the truth. They would much rather get their little junkets, thanks very much. They'd much rather be in positions where they're rubbing shoulders with all the rich and powerful because it makes them appear to be, big people. They would much rather get their big fat paychecks than actually fight for the people who matter. And I have tried over years to get people to understand what's happening, to ring the bell, to sound the alarm. and we continually get pushback, continually get the people who don't want to know. And I can tell you that in up to 2010, I was involved in a campaign here called Plug the Pipe in Victoria, where the Labor government then in Victoria wanted to take huge amounts of irrigators' water to Melbourne when it wasn't necessary. That was a plan that was going to take a lot of water out of our economy for farmers. We fought that, and ultimately we beat it. And there's a bit more we'll talk to about when we do the next one of these kind of lives. But that was up until 2010, I was involved in that. The Murray-Darling Basin plan was on the table then. That was a massive plan to strip huge amounts of water from Australian agriculture and Australian economies and Australian communities, destroying. This was a crash and burn kind of a policy that they brought in to take enormous amount of our crucial fresh water for growing food and our communities and run it down the river out into the Southern Ocean. The four major parties all supported that, every bit of it. Now, I've tried on many, many occasions to fight this stuff. In 2016, I was a member of the Victorian Farmers Federation. Now, the Victorian Farmers Federation at that time and right up until today, and we've got a new bloke running it, Brett Hosking. I sort of reckon Brett's on the right track. He's going to need a bit of help and some more information. But right up until then, the Victorian Farmers Federation has been totally corrupt, totally fraudulent. They have basically rubber stamped the things that the government, our governments, up to what these people here want in destroying farmers. That has been what they've done. And I think it'd be fair to say that nearly every other state-based farmer group, whether it be National Irrigators Council, all the state other bodies, have been on the same page. They've been very, very happy to help see our farmers wiped out. And I know many of their cases, I've tried to work with these people and they fight you. They oppose you. Now, there's reasons why I think they want to keep their snout in the trough. I think they'd rather rub shoulders with all the ministers and the government people and make out they're something big. Make out they're important. I think that's where this is at. But in 2016, I stood for the state president's job of the VFF. Now, I wasn't successful in that because I can tell you right now, the powers that be did not want me to be successful. And that was, interestingly, the first year that they went to electronic voting, as far as my memory serves me. And interestingly enough, the bloke who did become president was David Joe Hinckley. And David Joe Hinckley is now president of the National Farmers Federation. So I think you can see why we're in trouble. G'day, David. How you going, mate? I'm still quite happy, David Joe Hinckley, to have a chat with you, mate. Matter of fact, come on Billboard Battalion, or come on whatever you've got, or come on the ABC, mate. You know, the trusted ABC. David Joe Hinckley, I would debate you anywhere, anytime. Let's do it, mate. Let the people actually hear your crap. Because I'll make a note that the protests that we had in Melbourne last Tuesday, David Joe Hinckley, the president of the National Farmers Federation, was actually there. I saw him there. David Joe Hinckley doesn't like to talk to me that much after the last meeting we had, because he's pushing an agenda that is seeing the destruction of Australian agriculture. So David Joe Hinckley, open anytime, mate. You want to come on? You want to talk to me about this? Let's put the pros and cons so that the viewers can see your argument versus my argument. So in 2016, I stood for the Victorian Farmers Federation president's job, and here's a couple of the things that I said in 2016. So this was as part of the campaign, my campaign for the VFF president's job. And I'll tell you right now, if I'd have got the job as president of the VFF, we would have turned the VFF into a fighting force, and we would have actually fought for farmers. With my knowledge, the things I know, the things I'm prepared to say and do, we would have turned the VFF around and we would have got Victorian farming on track. This, what's happening now with this Allen tax and all the rest of the stuff, would not happen, I guarantee you. So here's some of the quotes that I said at the time, and these are direct quotes from my campaign. I said, "We're no longer prepared for government to wipe the floor with farmers and smash them to pieces, and with policies that are absolutely atrocious." That was 2016, I said that. And other parts of what I said here. And I can show people, we'll actually do a bit of a thing of this very soon. It was reported here, and I'm not sure, it might have even been our ABC when they actually did some good, as opposed to the scumbags they are now. Mr. Northhausen said his main priority was getting the VFF back to being a fighting force. Among his concerns are the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, foreign investment, free trade policies, deregulation of the dairy industry, and mining. Well, that was 9 years ago. And these are the things that I was saying back then. And that's where we needed to take the Victorian Farmers Federation. But in fact, David Joe Hinkey took it down into the swamp and got it so bogged and buried, so hopeless, so pathetic and weak, so gutless that it wouldn't fight. That's where Joe Hinkey took it. And then Emma Germano, after Joe Hinkey, was worse. And now we've got Brett Hosking. So I speak to Brett Hosking a bit. Brett's got a long way to go to get this back up to a fighting force. Not sure if he can, but we're going to help him to try and do as much as we can. This is only a small part of what I'm talking about. So we need to have a look at who is the problem here and what can we do to fix it. We'll certainly look at that. So our problem comes from government, from politicians. They are our problem. And in fact, I'll put a sticker up here. This is one of our stickers that we sell with Billboard Battalion. And I don't know if people can read it or not. I'll put that up there. The greatest threat to our farmers are our governments. Support Billboard Battalion. So all this stuff's available on our website. The big problem we have is that our politicians, well, the vast majority of them, the ones who are in government, are actually working for the WEF, the UN, and the WHO. And they create an illusion that they fight each other. They're not. They are exactly the same. And in the agricultural sector, whether we're looking at here in Victoria, when we're looking at Queensland, whether we're looking at Western Australia, it doesn't matter because we cover farming issues and farmers all over the entire country. So just recently, I mentioned before about the sheep, and there's a group called Keep the Sheep. And I've got to say some things that we're not trying to offend anybody. We're not trying to upset anybody. But the facts are the facts. And the truth is the truth. And if we don't talk about things that are problems, then we're never going to be able to fix it. The first thing about fixing a problem is to accept that there is one. So I'm going to talk about some farmers and some people, and many of them I've been at war with before, but not from the point of view of we're trying to rub people's face in it, we're trying to upset people and stir them up, or we're trying to argue and fight and squabble. Because ultimately, our industry needs to come together. And we need to form a single fighting unit. And I'm only going to say these things as examples just to try and give people a feel for the temperature of where things are and to try and see what's happening here. So we had many people when the government announced the ban on the live sheep exports. And of course, immediately the coalition jumped in and said, oh, this is Albanese, this is the Labor Party doing this and this and this. Okay. So the answer to that is get the coalition into power and we will reverse this. We'll reverse this policy. No, you won't. We've heard this crap before. But the bottom line is the coalition are all on the same page as the Labor Party in wiping out the sheep industry. Because we look at this mob here and they are in the business of wiping out food production. Because their overall thing, as I said earlier, take the global population and drop it down to virtually nothing. They talk about this openly. This is not a secret. This is one of the things where I talk about the politicians should be letting us know this is happening, but they don't. They don't say a word. In fact, they ridicule anybody who does. Well, I guarantee this is happening. I guarantee you 1,000,000%. And your life is in very serious danger and your families. So we get back to the coalition. They ran the line. Oh, if we get into power at the last federal election, which was only a couple of weeks ago here in Australia, we will reverse the ban on live sheep export. So they've got all the people from the likes of Keep the Sheep, all the West Australian farmers and other farmers throughout the country to think, oh yes, that's the answer to this problem. Let's get the coalition into power. Okay, that's how they run. And people believe that stuff. There's people who wholeheartedly commit to trying to get the coalition into power. It's a complete waste of time. And one of the main things is that these people up here, they control our elections. So the coalition was not scheduled to be put back into power because the Labor Party is who these people up here now are using to do all their dirty work, supported by the coalition. The coalition do not want to win government because that is not the overall global strategy. So we have now a situation where huge numbers of farmers put their faith in the coalition. They put effort behind trying to get the coalition elected. They call it Albanese's ban on sheep. Or here in Victoria, they call it Labor's transmission lines or Labor's wind turbines. It's not. It's got nothing to do with Labor. They just happen to be the ones in power. Because everything's happened over the last 40 years. The coalition have helped to make it happen because they are on the payroll of these people up here. They are on the payroll. Make no mistake. They know what's going on. Just recently in Victoria, I had discussions, possibly arguments with some of the people who are fighting against the transmission lines here in northern and northwestern Victoria. Because we've got this whole rollout of renewable energy. And that's a contradiction in terms. It's not renewable energy. It is a disaster that is going to fail. It cannot possibly do what it says it's going to do. It is designed as, again, it's from these people up here using climate change crap to help to collapse our economy, our country, and our rural and regional areas. That's what that's designed to do. So I went to a number of meetings, as did Billboard Battalion. We went to meetings and spoke about this stuff here right now. And ended up in a few discussions, maybe an argument or two with a few people about where this is at. And the big problem that I was highlighting is that we, the farmers, the communities, cannot listen to the politicians and what they advise us to do. I was at a meeting in Western Victoria here earlier on, where there was politicians there, and I said to the people, what you're seeing rolled out now, what you're being advised and led by the politicians to do, is exactly what they led us to do back in around about 2012 with the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, and we got smashed because we believed the coalition, or many other people. I didn't, because I already know what's happening. Many people believed the coalition, particularly the National Party politicians. They come along and they seduce everybody in the country, in the rural regional areas, and they say, "Oh yes, we'll fight for you. We'll oppose this. Look, we're in opposition. We can't really do much, but we'll oppose this. We won't support it." And then on the odd occasion when they do get into power, they do support it. Make no mistake. No better example exists than the Murray-Darling Basin Plan. But in these meetings, we said, this is what's happening. And some people there said they didn't want to hear about it because they're dry areas over around Sanana and Wedderburn. These places are dryland areas. They don't want to hear about stuff with irrigation farmers. I said, it's not about whether it's irrigation or dryland. It is the modus operandi. It's what they do. It's how they con us, how they con us, they lie to us, and they are systematically destroying farming. So I said to them, look, help Billboard Battalion to fight these people, because this is where it's at. And the strategy then that they came up with, and once again, I'm not trying to stir people up. I'm not trying to cause problems and issues and division by bringing back up a few things that happened. As I continually say, if you can't assess what's happened, then you can't plan for what you're going to do in the future. And by the future, I mean right this second, right now. So the plan was that the community group there was going to raise public funds, going to raise money from the community and take the Victorian government to court. Now, I said at the time, that is exactly what they expect you to do. That is exactly what they've planned for you to do. And if you do that, you will lose, because the courts are absolutely corrupt. They are in the business of making sure that these plans up here go through. Not you. You are not going to win. So they raised $500,000 to go to court and got smashed on a case where they should have won. But as I said, this is about what's going on up here and the corruption. So you were never going to win. And then they raised another $100,000 to run an appeal. And guess what? No worries, got smashed. Came away, licking wounds, tail between the legs, crying foul. And they're correct. They did get ripped off. They should have won. But the system is, if you know how this works, you are not going to win, because that's not the plan. No matter whether you're right or wrong. Destroying farmers is the plan. And whatever stands in the way of that is going to get smashed. There is a way to do this, I believe. And we'll talk about this when we get to the end of this video. So I remember I got into a heated discussion argument with one of the women who was a part of the team who was organising this court case. And I was trying to explain to her this stuff here and why you're going to lose and why it is pointless doing what you're doing, because number one, you're listening to two professions that you would never, ever, ever trust. Number one are lawyers, And number two, politicians. What could possibly go wrong? These people were sucked in by coalition politicians who even today say that, oh, this National Party politician, oh, they do a great job. Or this Liberal Party, yes, they're on our side, they're doing a great job. No, they're not. They are playing you every bit. They are playing you for fools. And that's borne out by the results of what we see. So that's just one example. And as I said, I am certainly not trying to hang it on these people because they're fighting what they believe is a good fight. They think they're doing the right thing, but they're being played by the politicians, the farm leaders, and the media. The whole lot. They're being played. And these are good people. These are decent people. These are people who are fighting for their life to save their farms from what's happening with all these transmission lines, with all these windmills, with all these solar panels. And I'm 100% behind that. The only thing is, they don't understand the rules of the game. That's the big problem. So that's where Billboard Battalion, that's where Farmer Wade comes in, because we do. The only thing we don't have is the support. We don't have the agricultural sector behind us. I want to just say a few things about going back quite a long time now to when the Murray-Darling Basin Plan battle was on. We had many groups who were fighting against the Murray-Darling Basin Plan. And I created an organisation back then after I left the VFF because the VFF was selling us out. They're just rubber stamping whatever the government wanted. And the little gutless parasites, the likes of Richard Anderson, who was the chairman of the VFF Water Council, and other gutless parasites like David Johinke. These people, Peter Toohey, the president before Johinke, these people have a lot to answer for, a huge amount. So I want to talk a little bit about, as I said, the Murray-Darling Basin Plan. Coming up to that, there was many groups who were fighting against it, but they weren't fighting in the right way. They were fighting in a way that was never going to win. It was a way where they did not want to tell the truth. The truth didn't matter. The facts were irrelevant. They played the nice game. They were led by, once again, the coalition politicians. And they were led by farmer group leaders who lied to them, who conned them, who sucked them in, who said, oh, scale it down. You can't be too aggressive because you're going to lose everybody. And, no one wants to hear the things you're saying. So the bottom line is the so-called environmental science, here we are, climate change again, being used as a weapon. The environmental science was fraud. The people who made up the Wentworth group of concerned scientists, a bunch of low-life scum who were liars. They worked in conjunction with the government to present a pact and information that was completely dishonest, and they knew it. But the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, which comes under the heading of climate change, was designed to destroy huge amounts of family farmers, businesses, communities, to send them broke, to wipe them out. And that's what it's done. So the point being that the things I said were discredited by many of the so-called community and farmer leaders. They said, oh, yeah, Wade's just a crackpot. Yeah, he's just a lunatic. Don't listen to him. He's over the top. If we listen to him, nobody will talk to us. So we'll lose everyone. They'll walk away. So how'd that go for you? And once again, I'm not saying this to be nasty or I told you so. I'm saying this as a line in the sand to say, here are the actual, real examples of where we've gone wrong for no other reason than to demonstrate how we need to go forward to fix this problem. Now, I'm not standing here as some sort of a popularity contest. I'm standing here to say these are the facts, and we need to fight for our country. We need to fight for our farms. We need to fight for our kids, because the plans of these people up here are very, very nasty. Your kids won't be here. That is their plan. That's the plan. So we need to get our mind right and fight this, and fight it now. And that's why I'm giving these examples. And many of the results of many of the farmers who listened to the coalition, who listened to the National Irrigators Council, the National Farmers Federation, the state-based, the water groups, the water councils, whatever, they listened to them. They would not listen to me. Well, what's the result? How'd that go for you? The government wiped the floor with us because they know that there are people in the movement, I don't know what you want to call it, who are weak, they won't fight, and they want to play Mr. Nice Guy. And they're so easily manipulated by the politicians. They listen to the media. They won't fight. They refuse to accept the facts as what they are. And that is what I'm talking about. The stuff we're seeing unfolding now with the farmers has been in place for half a century. The plans have been developed over the last 100 years, and a hell of a lot more for that. But let's just say 100 years. This stuff is not an accident. So with our Murray-Darling Basin people, the result was they put the Murray-Darling Basin Plan into law. The 2007 Water Act came into law, and then they used that to bring in the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, of which states are signed up to under the federal government. And we saw the massive collapse of agriculture everywhere. Family farmers, communities destroyed. That was the purpose. And they took, at the time, 2,750 gigs of water. This is a very short version. So we lost through not understanding what we're fighting against and not responding to it in an appropriate way. Not calling it out for what it is, and then calling for unity and a combined effort to fight it. Division is everything. They rely on division. They specialize in division into making people hate other people. That's a politician's primary skill. That's what they do. And that's why we get smashed, because the people won't listen to what's actually real and then come together as a unit and fight it at that level. So the government knew that they could just do whatever they want. They knew the farmers would not combine, and they knew the farmers would not actually listen to reality. We did meetings over Victoria, New South Wales, and South Australia to try and get this message through. But as is always the case, we do not have the resources. We don't have the money, and we don't have the people backing us, because you've got people who go into the farming community and actually run interference. The people who oppose what I talk about, they're running interference. So they're a big part of the reason why we don't get across the line, because many of the influential farmers in our community won't back us. But they will go crook. They'll scream blue murder when they get smashed. My God, this is not rocket science. And every time we lose another bunch of farmers, they don't go, okay, so what can we do to fight? Many of them go broke, go bankrupt because of government policy, because that's what's designed to happen. And many of the other farmers just shun these people. Many of the other farmers just want to take what they've got. Over the dead bodies, the burning, smouldering wrecks, other farmers will come in and buy it up. And we hear quite a lot at the minute about mental health. We hear a lot about suicides. Back in the Murray-Darling Basin time, we heard the government say we're going to announce another $100 million or something for mental health. The government are the ones who are creating the mental health problems. And they're creating that deliberately. This is part of the psychological and economic warfare against Australia and against our farmers, against all our communities. This is a specific strategy. Drive people to despair. Make them commit suicide. That's what this is about. I hear lots of people say, have a look over the gate, mate. Are you okay? Call in and see your neighbours. Give them a call. Check up how they're going. You bet. Absolutely do that. Absolutely. When I was president of the Victorian Farmers Federation branch here in West Goulburn, we did a lot to try and make sure that we covered the mental health of our farmers who were being wiped out by these plans and just after drought. So I worked with financial and psychological counsellors with many farmers to try and get them the help, to try and get them the support. So I know a fair bit about this stuff. We've been in that battle and we still are. Every opportunity we get, I get people calling up all the time. And I spend a huge amount of time talking with people who have got these massive dramas and problems going on, just to try and give them an ear and someone to talk to and some sort of support and help. So here's the thing about that. The best way to help people with their psychological, mental, emotional problems and their financial problems is to stop what's causing them, is to stop it. We need to attack that and kill it. And what's happening is these are the policies that are coming from the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, and the World Health Organization. They are deliberately doing this. And the stress and the pressure that this puts on farmers, because that is what is designed to happen. So if our farmer groups and our people who are protesting continue to follow the lines that they are, you are just going to exacerbate the problem. What needs to happen is we need to start understanding what's happening. That's what this stuff is about. That's what this video today is all about. Understand what's happening. Then we can fight it. And just to add the bit on top of the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, because the government knew that the farmers were unorganised, couldn't organise themselves, were incapable of organising themselves, were so easily led by the politicians who led them astray, they knew that they could come back and take another 450 gigs of water from the farmers, and the farmers would not do anything about it because they don't understand war. They don't understand what's happening. They don't want to understand what's happening. But every now and again, when things get to a flashpoint, you'll see the farmers will raise up. They'll go and do some protests. The politicians will just massage them down a certain path, a path that goes nowhere. They expend their time, money, energy, resources on a pointless exercise because that's what the politicians have set up for them. And then it all fizzles out, but another big whole heap of farmers are gone. That's how this cycle works. This is the political strategies of the four major parties. And the farming communities have played their part beautifully. They get wiped out, smashed to bits, wound up, scrubbed out, destroyed, because they won't listen to someone who's telling them the facts. And that's me. That's Farmer Wade Northhausen from North Central Victoria, just a bloke from the bush, mate. But we run Billboard Battalion and we're fighting this fight. I remember speaking to a woman just a while ago from up in the Southern Riverina about the Murray-Darling Basin Plan. And I remember she said to me, back in the time when we were fighting the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, she said, "You told us that we're all stupid and we're going to lose our farms because we won't do what you say." Okay, that's correct. Yes, the people who wouldn't listen, who followed the other people. People like the Chris Brookses, people like the politicians up there, the Susan Lays, the people who led farmers astray. What's the result? How many people now in the Southern Riverina and Northern Victorian Irrigation Belt are gone? They are losing their farms. Yes, they are. Did they listen? No. Did they want to listen to the people who have got lots of money and lots of prestige in the community? Yep. That's who they listened to. And now many of them are gone. We've got old mate Chris Brooks up there who took a fairly big leadership role. And Chris Brooks' whole plan was, or part of it, the Northern Basin people are stealing all the water, or they're floodplain harvesting. That's right. They're taking all the water and we're getting nothing down here. Really? What about keeping the water we've got? Because the water that they brought in, the government, as fast as they possibly could, ran it down the Murray River out into the Southern Ocean. That's where we should have been fighting, right there. Not fighting each other. So this Northern Basin versus Southern Basin stuff just makes farmers fight against each other. We should have been fighting against the government, because the government is working for this mob up here and they're the ones who are taking us out. Division is death. We all must be on the same page, but it has to be the right page. It must be the right page. And once again, I'm not trying to say things that are going to upset people or get people's back up. What I'm citing are historical facts. And these are the historical facts that have led us into the crap that we're in now. It's led us into the dramas and the disasters. And I can see right now we're going down that path again. Exactly the same path. Because so many people who are taking some sort of a leadership role, the people who have capacity, are not listening. They're being led by the politicians. Again, they're not listening. And I know that I'm not some politician that has a seat in Parliament, not on, over $250,000 a year. I don't sort of have some big flash palace and mansions all over the joint. And the reason being is because we've been putting our time and energy into fighting for our country, fighting for our farmers and our kids, because that's on the line. That is on the line right now. With the signing of this pandemic treaty here, or whatever variant of it that they've brought in, what that's about and how that affects farmers. This mob up here, this crowd up here, these terrorists, they now have full control of our country and your farms. And they are going to use climate change as the weapon to continue to wipe you out. This isn't something that's new. This is something that's been in place for a long time. And they own our governments. This mob up here own our governments. Whether you like it or not, those are the facts. The government is signing up to everything the World Health Organization wants. The governments, whether it's coalition or Labor and the Greens, or Liberal and the Nationals, they are signed up to the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement is about wiping out farmers. It's about wiping out industry. It's about wiping out Australians' ability to use energy, Australians' ability to have food, quite literally. And this will come through with the benefit to the government, not us, of the central bank digital currencies, the ESG score, environmental, social and governance score, the digital identification, all the carbon stuff. Farmers are now getting very bogged down in mandatory carbon reporting. This is a disaster. This is a weapon to wipe out your farming. And it doesn't matter whether you're farming 25 hectares somewhere or literally 1 million hectares. You are on the chopping block now. The power of government to bring in so many laws, rules and regulations to wipe you out. They're doing it every day. You cannot fight that unless you do it. And I believe there's only one way. And I can tell you right now, I'm very, very concerned that with the signing of this thing here, this pandemic treaty, we may have already lost. Everything you've got may already be gone. You just don't realize it yet. And this is a very, very real fact. We talk about here the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. By the time it gets to 2030, this is what this is about. The people up the top will have full ownership and control of everything. You won't own anything. And I know people might find that pretty hard to believe, but I guarantee you 1,000,000% accuracy, that is exactly where this is going. So what can we do about this? I think very little. I think very, very little. I think we are in big, big trouble, massive trouble, because this is a war against us. It just doesn't look like a war, but I guarantee you it is. So the things that I propose, and I'm not coming at this from just getting on board in the last couple of years. I'm coming at this from 40 years of experience in a big way in all this stuff. What we need to do is we need to put maximum pressure on our politicians to come out and tell us the truth. This pandemic treaty, does it exist? Did Australia sign up to this? Yes or no? And they will tell you, oh, well, but that's only in the case of a pandemic. Now, here's the kicker. The World Health Organization, who would assume full control of our economy, of our industry, our movement, our ability to buy food, everything, they would assume total control, would declare that agriculture is 30% of the greenhouse gases, and that under a pandemic treaty, climate change is a pandemic. Now, let's just hear that again, because here's the crux of everything. The WHO, and they're already saying this, would declare that farming and climate change is a pandemic of international concern. That's the words. That term triggers them. Australia is now signed up that they must do what the WHO says in combating a pandemic. Now, they declare climate change is a pandemic. which they've already said. And then they take full control to extinguish that pandemic, being climate change. They're blaming farmers for 30% of the contribution to their bogus pandemic. It is lies. But that gives them quite literally the legal power, the legal authority to take you down, to wipe out your farms, to wipe out food production by a number of different mechanisms. One of them is to tax the hell out of you. One of them is to create zones that are declared emergency zones under climate change. You've got no idea about this stuff because your scumbag politicians are lying to you. They're not telling you. The other people who are involved in your businesses don't tell you. When we were in Rockhampton, Queensland last year, in April last year at Beef Week, I spoke to many of the state managers from the likes of Elders and the likes of Nutrien. I spoke to many of the bank managers at the stands there. And I said, you're involved in farmers' businesses, in advising them on their businesses, on the things that make them or break them. Why are you not telling them about this stuff up here and what the World Economic Forum calls the Great Reset? The fourth industrial revolution. That's what it's called. And I said, how come you're involved in their business, making money and being viable, and you're not telling them about the greatest threat to their entire business? And a few of them are a bit sheepish. And they said, oh, well, look, we sort of know about this stuff, but we can't say anything. I said, well, why can't you? It's just the truth. It's going to send them broke. People are being destroyed every day. Why aren't you telling about them? Oh, well, that would have to come from the board. You need to talk to the board of Elders or the board of Nutrients or the board of the National Australia Bank or the Commonwealth Bank. Now, I couldn't even get to talk to the board of the National Farmers Federation. So this is where we need numbers. This is where we need massive, big numbers of our farmers, of our communities to come on board to help Billboard Battalion. We are the primary agency. We are the tip of the spear. We are the ones who know this stuff. We are the ones who can fight this stuff if we have the backing and the support. That's what's needed. So we can take on the politicians. We can take on the World Economic Forum, the UN and the WHO. We can take on their pandemic treaty. We can try. I do suspect we're in big trouble, but we must think positive. We must now run a rearguard action. We must counter-attack. I don't mean with guns. I mean with information. The agricultural sector has the capacity to fight this stuff, so long as we can get them all on the same page, get them to understand what's going on. Billboard Battalion needs to tour Australia. We need to educate people as to what's happening. We need the money, the finances, we need the backing and the support to do this. It's logistics, it's industry and community support. This is what needs to happen. And we need to do this immediately, because I suggest many people in the ag sector have probably never heard of the MAD bill, MAD. That stands for misinformation and disinformation. That is what the federal government tried to get over the line just before Christmas last year. They missed out by, I think it was 2 votes, in the upper house. And what that would give the government is the right to start shutting down information. And make no mistake, they're serious. And this happens, people in England right now are in jail for 3 years just for saying something, literally. And we're talking with farmers in England, New Zealand, Canada, all across the place. We're talking to farmers internationally. And we've got the same problems happening overseas. So therefore, we can do something about this, I believe. I have to believe this, because otherwise you're stuffed. And your politicians are the ones who have put you in this position. Your National Party politicians in the country areas, they are the prime offenders, the Nationals. They have set you up. They know what's going on, but they don't tell you, and they set you up. And let's have a look at the likes of the trade union movement, or the trade union, the trade movement, where tradies, the Labor Party have set you up. The people who are all the lefty greenies, the Greens have set you up. Everything is going to be destroyed. They've set you up. The Liberal Party supposedly represent businesses. No, mate. The Liberal Party have set up the business community to be destroyed. So we, the people, are the only possible answer. Now, we can have as many protests as we want, but unless we're on the right page and put those energies and efforts into the right areas, it's a waste of time. And I'm proud to stand and fight next to any Australian. Matter of fact, I've led those fights, and I'm never, ever going to back down. But we have some certain things that we need to do if we're going to have a chance at all. We need to form up. We need to get support behind Billboard Battalion, because no one else has got what we've got. No one in Australia has. We need to pull the agricultural sector together, and then the rest of the community. This is about using people power to push back on these politicians and make them admit what's going on, and then come up with a joint plan to fight it. Make no mistake in the world, we are at war, and we're losing. We're losing incredibly, very seriously. So we need to organise, and we need to strike back. Otherwise, the plans they've put in place over the last 100 years, the corrupt politicians, the corrupt governments, the corrupt judiciary, the corrupt leaders of the police force, the leaders of our military, not the rank and file people, the leaders, they're going to win. And we are in big trouble. They talk about this pandemic treaty. They're organising pandemics now. They are man-made. And I can put as many doctors and medical professionals up as you want to prove that. They needed to create a pandemic. It's fraudulent. They needed to create this mass panic in order to get people to accept that. That is a critical part of their plan. And I guarantee you, they are manufacturing artificial pandemics as we speak. And they've been doing that for years. So they will be bringing out a new pandemic very soon. If you think what I'm saying is not correct, watch this space. You think the problems we had with the bogus COVID pandemic before were a problem? You ain't seen nothing yet. The stuff they've got planned will make your hair stand on end. The question is, in the very short time we've got, what are we going to do about it? Now, I'm open to debate any politician. You've got a standing politician, I'll debate them, no problem. Let the people see that debate. Right now, we need to get in Victoria here, our councils fighting back. Because the councils, in this instance, are going to be the ones who are charged with collecting this money off people. And I'm talking to councillors now, and I'm coming up to speed with that information. What they're about. If the councils can't recover the money that's due every year from landholders, whether it's a house in town or whether it's a farmer, the council still have to hand over the cash. So you're going to see councils going broke, in massive financial trouble. And that is part of the plan. That's what Allen and her scumbag in the Liberals and the Greens and the other couple of parties who supported them, as well as the scumbags in the Liberals and the Nationals, because they know all this stuff, but they're just not telling you. That's what that's designed to do. is to send our councils broke, because then that brings your properties into some sort of security. They have been used as security. So therefore, you're going to find ownership of your properties, then transfer to these people through their subsidiaries. This is evil stuff, but it's very serious. And I get it. Like the woman who I had a bit of a discussion with in Sanana that night. She cracked it with me and she said, look, I can't deal with this stuff. It's too much. It's doing my head in. I don't understand this stuff. I don't know what you're even talking about. And I say to her now, I know. I know you don't know what I'm talking about. And I know you don't understand it. That's why I'm saying I do. That's why I'm saying support what I'm doing. Support Billboard Battalion. Because we do understand it. And I'm not expecting everyone to have the knowledge that I have. There's lots of things I don't know about. I'm not the font of all knowledge of anything. I'm no Rhodes Scholar. But I know this stuff. This is what I do. So, you've got problems with a crop, you get an agronomist. You've got problems with finance, you talk to the bank manager. You've got problems with the road, you ring the shire. You got problems with a crook animal, you get the vet. In this situation, you've got problems with the politics and what's happening to our country and our farms, you call me. And by that I mean support what I'm doing. Support Billboard Battalion. Because, like it or not, this is the last and only line of defence. And we need to build that into an effective fighting force. We need to take on the politicians. And some people say to me, you've said the four major parties are the problem. Then who do we vote for? Well, what I say is we sort out the four major parties. And then it doesn't matter who you vote for. Because if we, the people, take back the power and the control, then whoever comes into politics comes in knowing the rules. You don't screw us over. You don't work for a foreign allegiance. And we've got people in the Australian and state parliaments right now who have done the leadership course of the World Economic Forum Young Global Leaders courses. They've done it. They are on board with them, not you. They're not here to fight for you. They're there to fight for them. And that means to extinguish you. Now, this stuff is all, you can find this out anywhere. You just have to start looking. Because these people tell you up front what they're doing, what they're about. To reduce population. The World Economic Forum speakers themselves say we've got to bring the world population from 8+ billion down to 1, not even 1 billion, 500 million. That's a massive extermination event. These people are serious. They have told you their intentions and they have the capacity to do it. So long as we don't organise and fight back. That's the most important thing of this video today. They have the objectives. They have the power and the ability so long as we don't fight back. So long as we don't organise and collaborate with each other. So long as we don't get a leadership who knows what's going on and can lead this stuff. They rely on us arguing and squabbling. They rely on us not knowing. They rely on us not getting down to the job. So once again, my purpose of this video today is not to upset anybody, not to stir anybody up, not to say I told you so. The whole purpose is as an educational tool, because education is everything. Information and knowledge is everything. So I hope the people who I've referred to, I've had to, because they are historical reality facts. They're actual events that support what I'm saying here today. We've got many, many people in this country. They've been fighting, they've been trying, but they just haven't been doing it right. Let's do it right. Let's fight as one unit. We can do this. But we have a battle in front of us now that they've signed us up to this pandemic treaty. We have a massive battle. It just got a million times worse and harder. So this is the only game in town. You can fight as much as you want about other stuff. That's okay. But understand it's part of one global plan, and this is the only game in town. Irrespective of what our own personal beliefs or thoughts, what might be, whether we believe what I'm saying or it's not, this is true. It doesn't matter. These are the facts. Simple as that. So all I can say, get behind Billboard Battalion. We're going to do this next Sunday. We will bring you a lot more. I was going to talk today about the shocking ABC and how so many Aussie farmers listen to ABC and believe wholeheartedly whatever they say. The ABC are your enemies. Make no mistake. I turn up somewhere, wherever I see in Victoria here, the Victorian country, our host is Warwick Long. When I turn up with a microphone, Warwick Long literally runs away. Mate, he could win. It's a steeplechase at any horse racing track. Warwick Long, he's gone. The minute I look at him, Warwick, he's gone. That's it. You can't see him for dust. Virtually sets fire to the bitumen. He's going that hard to get away, to not have to answer one question or not to talk to me at all. And so, Warwick Long, get back on the game, mate. Get back in the game. Help us fight this. You have capacity. You have the ability to help us do it. Matter of fact, all the media, but we'll talk about that next week. So next Sunday, we'll do the next part of this. But the federal government will sit very soon, and they'll be starting to bring in laws that stop us from talking and literally will stop us from protesting. Make no mistake, this is around the corner. This is not far away. This is deadly serious. Your life depends on what we're talking about here. Your kids' lives, your grandkids, and our community's future is on the line right now. So, just like to say thanks very much to everybody for watching. Feel free to help support Billboard Battalion. We're happy to talk to community groups, happy to talk to meetings, happy to put information and present. If you want to get in the fight to save your own lives, your own farms and businesses, support Billboard Battalion. Let's see what we can do, because we're almost out of time. It's almost over. Don't take what I'm saying lightly. Take what I'm saying as a call to action. We need to take on our politicians. We need to take on the system. We can do it. We must unite. Otherwise, it's game over. This is not good. All right, people. Thanks very much for listening. I hope you've got something out of this. I hope that it resonates. Have these discussions. Share this everywhere. And we'll be back at 1 p.m. next Sunday afternoon as well. But we also do a lot of other stuff in the meantime. So get with Billboard Battalion. Let's get in the fight. We are Australians. And this here is an Anzac that's on our logo, is an Australian Anzac. Our tractor and the Southern Cross. Those things represent who we are. For those of you who had Anzacs or people in the military who fought for Australia, everything they fought for is being thrown away right now. It's going headfirst down the gurgler as we speak. We'll be back next Sunday. Thanks very much. We'll talk to you then. Feel free to help us. Feel free to support. You can donate on our page. We do need money to help fight this. It's as simple as that. We're battling against a Goliath that has huge financial resources, massive other resources. We need to try and match that and fight it. We can with information. That's our weapon. Thanks, everyone. See you next Sunday, and stay tuned to other stuff on Billboard Battalion. We're putting stuff up all the time. All right, we'll catch you later. Wade Northhausen here. Sunday, the 25th of May, 2025, for Billboard Battalion, Australia Fights Back.